We are a people trying not only to solve the problems of the present, unemployment, inflation, but we are attempting on a larger scale to fulfill the promise of America. These words were spoken by Congresswoman Barbara Jordan in 1976 at the DNC National Convention in New York City at Madison Square Garden. She stood less than 100 blocks from where I stand today at 1912 Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard. In fact, 5 years before Jordan gave this historic speech, Charles Rangel unseated nationally renowned congressman and civil rights icon for whom this street is named. Now, some 40 years later, some are wondering, when is Rangel going to retire? His political challenger, Pastor Mike Walrond, says now is the time. In this episode, we explore the age-old controversy, old school versus new school. Today's generation is hungry for fresh leadership. In this special edition of The Positive Controversy, I sit down for a one-on-one with a man who's best known as Pastor Mike. In full disclosure, I've attended Pastor Mike's church for many years now. Pastor Mike is a candidate in New York's 13th Congressional District and a hopeful to offer Harlem, Spanish Harlem, and sections of the Bronx a new path. And these neighborhoods are not just pockets of New York City. They reflect the challenges and opportunities of urban centers all over the country.
There are people who believe that this district is fine because you see buildings going up and businesses, but there's an undercurrent of despair. There are people who are having a hard time paying rent. There are people being priced out of their homes. There are people who cannot find jobs. There are schools that do not give equitable access to educational resources. We know the issues that really plague this community. I'm running because of what we will do.
Harlem's political legacy is in a renaissance of its own as the hip-hop generation reaches maturity. Pastor Mike is a part of this generation as well as the coming of age of a seasoned political protege. And I'm happy to sit with him today and have this conversation. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you for having me.
What's a typical day like for you?
Well, I would say this, there are no typical days. Every day brings its own challenges, its own subtle nuances. But one thing I can say is that every day includes a lot of work, a lot of hard work, whether it is meeting people, walking the streets, knocking on doors, going to events. It is a rigorous undertaking, and I applaud anyone who decides to run for office because it is challenging and it is hard work.
Let's go back to the beginning real quick. You were born to immigrant parents.
Yes.
And you're now a husband and a father. Tell me from that experience, what is the American dream for you?
Yeah. You know, I believe the American dream is about opportunities. My parents came to this country from Barbados because they wanted to have more opportunities, and not only have more, but create more for their family. And so for me, it is not just about the house, the car, the picket fence, the children. It's about being able to stand in the legacy of persons who are willing to sacrifice to make sure that I had an opportunity to imagine my life in ways that are not limiting or stifling and are not based on boundaries that have been placed upon me, but to transcend those boundaries. And really, as I can conceive of myself, that is what I can really move forward and become.
How would you say that your experience as the pastor of First Corinthian Baptist Church, and as well as your role at National Action Network, has prepared you for this moment?
Well, I've been pastoring a total of 18 years. I've been working with the National Action Network for about 2 years. The one thing that I know is, as a pastor, when people come to you in crisis or with issues, it is hard to bypass. When people come and they are being evicted, we can't bypass that. When people come and they need clothes, they need food, they need real bills paid, lights cut off, they're about to be evicted, they need help. So I think as a pastor, one, it has kept me grounded, it has kept me engaged with people, it has kept me in touch with the issues that impact people in our community, and it's put me in a position where I have to create and develop real resources and real mechanisms to meet those issues.
Pastor, share with me how a congressman makes a difference in a rough economy.
But what I believe is that in this kind of situation, because if you think about it right now, when you talk about obstructionism, you think about the fact that this country has, this Congress has been called the Do Nothing Congress. And I tell people that when that phrase was coined in 1947, it was coined by Harry S. Truman. He called the Congress then Do Nothing. That Congress passed 395 bills. This Congress has passed roughly 60 bills. So this Congress is not really moving the country forward. It is not trying to propel the country in a direction that will benefit the masses of people in our country. And so what I believe in that kind of moment where Congress is not working and not functioning effectively, I believe that's where you take seriously the role of an elected official as activist, as issue advocate. But what I said before is that I don't believe we need another sophisticated legislator. We need leadership right now. We need visionary leadership. And that's what I've been saying, that in a day, in a moment where, in this district in particular, where over 50% of the demographic is Latino and about 27% African American, there are persons who are saying that a Latino should hold his seat now. It's only right because of the population, and there are those who are saying an African American should hold a seat because historically it was an African American district. And what I've been saying constantly is that the person who sits in his seat, who holds this congressional seat, ought to be a visionary, period. The kind of person who can cast a vision for this district, who can bring people together around shared values, shared vision, shared goals, shared hopes, and then together creatively create mechanisms in which we unify and we come together to really transform this district, because many people are still hurting. The images and the trappings of a renaissance, so to speak, and success are everywhere. But there are people here who are having a hard time. And this community in particular, where we're sitting right now in Harlem, cannot be what historically it has been if the people who've been at the heart of this community, the people who've been the fiber of this community, can no longer afford to live here. So that has to change. And the only way that changes is to have the kind of creative leadership who understands the need to create paths of opportunity for everybody and not just a select few.
For sure, you're dreaming a new dream.
New dream.
For this district.
Yes, yes. And I think that's what we need. As a pastor of a beautiful church, and I don't mean physically, I mean in terms of the makeup, we say that we are an ever-evolving community of visionaries and dreamers. We built 2 years ago the Dream Center here in Harlem. I cannot be the pastor of a community of visionaries and dreamers. I cannot be the founder of the Dream Center and not let that become infectious in everything I do. So even as a candidate for Congress, I'm dreaming, but pushing people to dream and reimagine what this district can be, a district where everyone can benefit and everyone can prosper and no one feels left behind. And sometimes what I've discovered in this journey so far is that politicians can be so caught up in the issues that are up here, they forget how to meet people on the ground. And so what I want to do is bring back the kind of activist-oriented issue advocacy leadership so people can feel connected, not just to their pain and connected to their crisis, but connected to their leader, connected to the elected official, connected to their congressperson. And I really want to do that. I believe in the possibilities we represent. And so I'm excited about this. I'm excited about June 24th. I'm excited about seeing people excited about voting. And I'm energized. And we have been doing that work of galvanizing and mobilizing people. Now is the time. Now is the time for change in this community.
Now is the time.
Now is the time, and we are the ones to do it.
Thank you for joining me in a conversation with someone that I admire and am proud to support. If you're in New York or Upper Manhattan, go to walrondforcongress.com to get more information about congressional candidate Mike Walrond. I'm Kristen Pope, and this has been a special edition of The Positive Controversy.
No longer waiting for anybody to do for me what I can do for myself. People are this democracy. We, the people, will change this. Now